All right, it's call to order. Pledge. Mike?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jimmy?
Our Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight, and we just ask you for guidance. We ask you for the ability to make the right decisions. We ask you to ones we make that would benefit this town and employees that we have here. Be with these council members as they go through those trials and help them through it. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, Sandy?
William Ellis.
Here.
Trevor Sager.
Here.
Scott Oldham.
Here.
Pamela Samples. Here. Dan Swafford.
Here.
Okay, and do we have a motion to put something back on the agenda before we go to, actually, we'll do this after accounts payable. So approval of the minutes of the regular meeting, April 25th, 2022.
So moved. Second.
Sandy?
William Ellis.
Yes.
Scott Oldham.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Abstain, was not here.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
Pamela Samples. Abstain. Wasn't here. Motion carries.
Okay, now on to action to pay accounts payable, vouchers, and payroll.
So moved. Second.
Sandy?
William Ellis.
Yes.
Scott Oldham.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
Pamela Samples. Yes. Motion carries.
Okay, now I'll entertain a motion for something that we tabled from last agenda, the last meeting when we didn't have a full board.
It was the fee for sewer hook-ons for the senior citizens' new housing development. It was tabled and I omitted it from the agenda.
Resolution number?
No, it doesn't have any resolution. It was just a request.
And so moved.
Second.
Okay. Mike, do you want discussion of this?
Do you want to speak?
Can you just do an all in favor on that one?
Oh, all in favor? Take a voice vote.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions or nays? None? Okay.
Hey, before we get started, there's been some complaints that people can't hear us. So if you could bring your mics closer and speak. William, you're one of them, and Pam was the other one that they really can't hear.
Really? Okay. Is that at home or here in the...
Here.
Is everybody able to hear me now? Okay. Thank you. First time I think I've ever been accused of not having a big mouth. Good. Yep.
I'm Dennis Fisher, President of the Richland Senior Housing Board. I was here last week because, talking to Mike and a few people, we got behind you guys put in for a upgrade or a raise for sewer hook-ons, and we got our permit for this project back in July of last year, and we didn't know this was happening, and somebody said, oh, by the way, here's your new bill. We're not even tied into it. We are now, but it's about a $35,000 raise, and we didn't budget for that. And I felt like since we already got our permit from last year, we should pay what we budgeted. So ongoing, if we build new, we'll go for what the new rates are. I'm just asking to pay the rate that we agreed to last July.
Okay. Mike, did you?
Well, I wasn't at the last meeting, so it would be nice if, I didn't read the minutes. So, I mean, why did you table it the last time? Is there a concern?
You weren't here. They wanted to talk to you.
I think overall lack of information, there was a couple council people and some other staff.
Okay, well then, I'll speak to it. When we calculate a commercial, falls under commercial, a commercial hook-on fee, it's based on equivalent dwelling units. And so a normal house is $1,500. And so we calculate, because how many rooms they have, how many equivalent EDUs they have, and then it's times $1,500. So we calculated that back in 4/20/21. So I think there was a delay getting started on the project. I don't know the details, but at some point, the project started, and they weren't hooked onto the sewer. They went through several months where hooking onto the sewer was not an issue or consideration, and I finally got a call from the people that are leading the way for the senior housing project, and they wondered why they never got billed. And I said, well, we don't bill you, you sign up, and usually it's when you get your water, and we never thought we don't bill you, we just, when you want to hook on, then that's when we usually come at you for the money. So the amount was discussed and relayed to Dennis, and I mean, it was originally $53,226. And so they've come hat in hand and said, hey, since since we were told what it was about, and since nobody paid for it, I think there was a real bad communications between all parties. They've asked that we not insist that they pay the new $2,500 fee per EDU. So that would have raised it to $88,000 and some change. I'm sorry, I don't have it, but it's $88,000 plus. And so what they're asking for is for us to honor the original connection fee stated and move on. So that's.
I'd like to add something very important is our new ordinance requires you to have a foundation and a building permit. They had all of that way before we changed our hook-on fees. So I think it's important to know that those requirements have long been met before. They just hadn't come in and paid their bill.
Okay.
They didn't know when to come in and pay, I think that's the problem.
Right. So if you would have known this is going up, you would have had no problem coming in.
I think we would have been here in August or September, maybe.
Normally, when a residential start happens, at some point they need water, either the construction manager or the developer, whoever's taking care of building the house, to get the water, they come in, sign up, give us all the information, and we get paid for the sewer hook on at the same time. Because of the scope of this project, it's a little different process with the commercial, and so I think it was just overlooked. Pardon?
We didn't look into the service almost into January, February. That's when they could get to it, really.
But they only recently, due to material shortages and the weather and what have you, they had not even turned on their water until recently. So it's not been a consideration or a concern of ours. We knew we'd get paid for the hook-on when we set the meters, and we're still waiting on the meters. We had to buy some temporary materials just so they could get water into the building. So
But we've paid the water, right?
you have not. We bill you for that. Commercial, we
okay.
bill for. Residential, we get up front because we give them a standard price. With commercial, it's time and material and labor. Sometimes they'll build everything up to where we just put the meter in. Sometimes we go in and make the tap and set the meter. And so because it always changes what's going to happen in commercial, we bill after the fact to make sure we recoup all our costs.
Council discussion on this?
Yes, I have a question. So, are we treating everybody like this? I mean, like people that's building houses maybe started a project and got a permit last year and they continue building. Are we still keeping them on the older?
Anybody that we give an estimate to prior to the change in the amount, we honor that for 30 days, and it says it on we give them an estimate. So we have a tiered process for installing water that allows the developer, construction, or individual to save money if they want to dig it themselves, and that's just put in the meter. Sometimes the developer has already stubbed the line in to the property, they get a different price. And so when they call us and say, hey, we want water at this certain address, residential, we go out and give them an estimate, and that's good for 30 days, and when they come in and pay it, that's how we treat them. So I think there was a couple people that got caught unaware, they didn't realize, and they had not applied for a service, and so, they'd already started their project, but a lot of times the residential builders, they'll wait till the last minute to put in their water and the house is built. So it's just, yeah, the answer is yes.
What was you saying, 30-day notice? You said something.
No, we give them an estimate, and it's good for 30 days.
So,
And there's times when we decide how the water gets put in that. We decide we want to excavate and install the service because it's a plastic main, and we're afraid there'll be disruption in service if we think.
so when did they ask for the estimate for the project?
I'd have to look at.
Well, the original estimate to the town gives says 4/21 of 52. We have an estimate what it would cost us. We just didn't pay it because we didn't know when to pay it.
And what was the date on that?
4/20 to 2021.
And we raised our rates the first of the year, February. And when did you notice that, when did you come in for the hook-ons and you noticed that we'd raised our rates? What was the date?
Well, I was told about maybe a month ago that, you're going to raise more, and I go, why? Because this is that we're caught in the middle that you raise rates and somebody's hadn't raised them for like 10 years. So we're kind of caught in this gray area, even if we knew we were going to raise them. But again, if you'd had a chart that said we had to pay this, we got our building permit 30 days, we would have paid this all last year and this wouldn't have been a problem.
Sure.
We're just saying we budgeted for 52, now it's went up to 88,000 just because somebody didn't come in and pay it. It's not that we ain't got the money, because I'll make a phone call when I leave here. I could probably have a check overnighted or whoever who pays it from the company that needs it.
Can I see the copy of the?
Sure.
And Mike, where's this where you say it's good for 30 days if there's nothing on this?
That's a commercial. That was an estimate I had Rick prepare, and he figured the equivalent dwelling units based on 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, and we use the items formula for deciding how many gallons per minute that generates, and so we don't put them on commercial. Normally, when they come in and they start water service, we send them a bill to the commercial entities.
30 days is for the water.
Yes.
Because the materials for it, this is just a hook-on fee for sewer.
Okay.
And they meet the requirements of our ordinance, and they ask for an estimate in April of last year. Obviously, it's a big development. It took time to build out. They were way ahead of our new ordinance and our new rate.
Can I ask why the revised copy was sent to them then? Did you send this to them?
No, Rick gave it to me last week. Well, I had an estimate, somebody said it was going up 30,000, and it went up 35.
And so you called Rick and asked for a copy, or?
No, he had it with him at the meeting last week. 'Cause they told me I had to come to the meeting, Mike, and then we're out of town, and Rick was going to handle it, which he,
Oh, so you didn't see this until you came to our
I didn't see
meeting?
him until I come to the meeting last week.
Okay.
Well, I knew the original. I mean, I knew it was going to be 52,000.
Right.
I thought it was the original hookup.
And I think that was prepared just to show the difference in cost.
Okay, that makes sense.
That really didn't come from anybody in our office.
Okay.
All right.
Any other council comments? Council action?
I would move that we return the pay rate, I guess what we're going to call, to the original estimate rate as generated.
I'll second.
Sandy, when you're ready.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
Trevor Sager,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's all right. That's just one of the things going on. So.
All right, next is the public hearing to reestablish the Cumulative Development Capital Fund. Is that you, Sandy?
We are, I guess it's just for the public if anyone wants to speak. There's been an ad in the paper, and this just reestablishes a fund that we've had since 1994, but due to the increase in assessed evaluation, our rate has dropped down. The rate's set at 5, and it's down to 0.0439, I think, and this will raise it back up to 0.05.
But this is something we do on a regular basis, because I
Yes,
recall
we
us
did
doing it
this
every
in
couple of years.
2019.
Yeah.
Also,
So it's not a new tax, it's not really an increase, it's just getting back to where we're.
yes.
Anybody from the public? Any comment? Say on this? Any council comment?
Yeah, I got a couple questions. Why was the tax lowered?
Because of the assessed valuation grew.
Yeah, I understand that, but why would that lower the tax?
Well, there's some cum funds that it doesn't affect and some that do, and CCD is just one of those that is affected by that in Indiana code. And
It's a formula, Dan.
Isn't it the rate,
Yeah.
the rate that's lowered, not the actual tax dollars? Because the rate's based on the assessment, correct?
Right.
So, yeah, the tax dollars aren't changing, it's the rate to keep up with those tax dollars.
So what was the rate last year then? When did this change?
0.0439, I believe. It's in the ordinance,
Remember, this was
the
outside
resolution.
the levy.
Yeah, this is outside the levy. Yeah, it's 0.0439, and so it's taken 19, 20, 21, 22, 3 years for it to slide down that much. This is a standard practice. Most municipalities do this on a regular basis, counties.
What do we use this money for?
Buy police cars.
Police cars.
That's the majority of it.
What do you guys feel about bicycles?
We may get another bicycle.
There are a
Well-
few other things that come out of there.
As long as it has a bell.
Each department has a computer line in there, but the majority of it is for police cars and equipping those cars.
And so what would the average taxpayer see the increase in their tax on this? Just a guesstimate. Because I know I asked you this question years ago.
I really have.
And I can't remember
I'm not
what you
prepared
answered.
to answer that right off the top of my head. I mean, it would depend on their assessed value but I mean, it's raising at 0.061, so it's very minute.
We're calling it a raise, but it really is maintaining the rate, correct?
Maintaining, that is correct.
And the other thing, with the way the assessed value has gone up, do we foresee this as maybe a yearly thing?
I don't think it should happen yearly. I mean, if it just drops 0.01, it's not really worth the effort, but every few years, yes.
We're seeing some AVs that'll increase 25, 30% though, just in 1 year, so that's why,
Mine went up 30%.
right, so that's why I'm wondering.
She can calculate every year. It's not what.
Right, exactly. But I'm saying that could happen.
And so we did this 3 years ago,
We did it in 19.
but every year it goes down, so it will go back up to the rate, so
It'll go
there
back
will
up
be a
to 05
difference.
in
Yeah.
2023. And then in 2024, it's going to start sliding back down.
So it went down 3 years, and then now it's going to go back up, so it is increasing. I just want to clarify that. A minute amount, but it is increasing. It's not staying status quo like someone said.
Well, the rate's decreasing, but the taxes, depending on the assessed value, you won't know the impact. I mean, the rate is on a higher assessed value. So
Well-
we're trying to keep the fund stable.
I understand that, but I mean, it's still an increase. I don't care what you call it, it's an increase.
Well, the rate's increasing, but we can't say that whether the taxes are going to.
And with
more than
the
likely
assessed
would.
value going up too, it's kind of a double whammy, even though it's very minute.
Well, really, we don't know if they did the proper tax cap, so it doesn't affect them at all. So this, for some people, could be on paper.
From everyone that I spoke to, they increased everyone's house level, so your cap doesn't kick in like that. Your cap will go, if your house is increased by 30,000, then your cap will go up 34,000. So it does increase everyone's tax when you raise the assessed value of your home. Because the circuit breaker, the cap was for a certain amount. Say your house appraised for 10 years ago, 200,000. You only go up to 1,000, you say you tax it. These are just crazy numbers I'm throwing
Right.
out here. But if your assessed value of the home goes up another 20,000, then say your taxes you were paying may jump up to 1,100 then.
That's, it's not one for one, but yeah.
Right, right.
I mean, the circuit breaker stays the same for residents. It's
For that amount.
0.01%.
Yeah, of
So-
the value.
Right, so if your AV goes up 0.01% of a
So
higher
does the
AV, it's
cap.
going to be,
A higher cap.
yeah.
Because I think everyone got hit this year with an increase.
Well, we lost 161,000 to circuit breakers this year, so, I mean, this will definitely not replace that circuit breaker.
Oh, and no, we don't want to try to replace
No,
that
no,
either.
and that's not the point either. I'm
Right.
just saying that,
Well, please don't say it or you'll get all kinds of
Okay.
phone calls. That's all I have.
So are we, this fund, getting back up to the 5%, are we looking to increase it quite a bit? Or, I mean, I guess, what type of, I guess my understanding, if the rate keeps dropping, unfortunately, it's not keeping up with the inflationary pressures on vehicles, especially right now. So in a sense, even though the rate's going, we're collecting near the same, we're actually losing ground because a car that was 50,000 in 2019.
23,000 a couple years ago is
Right.
now 40.
Right,
Yeah, they went up just 20% in the last few months. Yeah. And that's on state bid.
right. So I mean, if you look at the what I'd say the real cost, and I know, Dan, you may think I'm playing semantics with this, but I'm not really. I'm trying to, when you talk about anybody's pay, when you talk about expenses, you want to keep to be even. It really has to keep pace with inflation.
Right, I was
And-
just clarifying the comment you made that it is not going up. It is in fact going up.
It might.
No, it is.
Well, the rate itself
The
is
rate
going to go
itself
up.
will go up, and I never doubted that. The rate itself is going up.
Going back to where it was.
Yes, it's going back to where it was.
3 years ago.
Correct.
Not where it was yesterday. or
That's
last
correct.
year,
But it's going back to what the council had approved.
3 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, and way back in 1994, it
Right.
started out a 3-tier process, so by 97, we were up to the full 5. And I've reestablished this. This is probably my 4th time.
I'm just clarifying. I'm not beating the horse to death. I'm just clarifying the statement you said. That's all I was doing.
Okay. Any other council comment? Council action?
Have we moved the resolutions now?
Actually, Sandy, do we need to take a vote on this or whatever, or is this just?
It is. You've had your discussion, and now it is time to
Okay.
vote on the resolution.
All right, so on Resolution 04-2022 to reestablish a cumulative capital development fund. Any?
Second.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
Trevor Sager, Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Pamela Samples. Yes. Motion carries.
I see.
Bicycle next year, Jimmy.
Okay, I see no ordinances on the first reading, nor ordinance on the second reading. An old business discussion on redistricting the Ellettsville Town Council wards due to the 2020 census. That you, Kevin,
I don't have anything.
to add?
Nope.
All right, council
Can you
discussion?
switch that up to so that we can put
One of the things on this, and Kevin, please, my thanks go to you for doing this, seriously. However, particularly nationwide with the amount of scrutiny that goes on with gerrymandering or anything else that goes along, I would think that we probably at least solicit bids to find an outside exterior company that would do this, or at least put a proposal before us to see if it differs substantially. And again, Kevin did an excellent job, but because he's internal to the town, and frankly, because all the council is of one party, I think it's important that we establish, not that he ever would, because that's not how he is, but for anyone to look at it and go, yeah, that was impartial how those were redistricted.
Well, we could do what the county and the city of Bloomington's done and have a commission.
We could do that. I mean, again, I just want to make sure that somebody later doesn't come back and try and accuse us of making sure that everything stayed, even though we're all voted for by the entire town.
Right.
It's still making sure.
Well, my question, and Darla, I know you're not prepared to answer this, but although it's suggested that we redistrict every 10 years after a census, is it required? We only gained a couple of hundred people. It's not like it was a huge increase over the last decade. So maybe it's better just to pass on it this time.
You're right, I'm not prepared to answer that question, but I'll be happy to look at it, so.
Well, I kind of agree with Scott, and I think I brought this up at the last meeting. I think if we are going to mess with that, then we should have an outside source as the one saying how to redistrict it. But I also agree, Sandy, if it's only a couple hundred houses, then, you know.
The last time it cost us $5,000, and that was 10 years ago, so it's going to be substantially more.
We wouldn't need to pay anybody to have a commission.
Okay.
The county and the city of Bloomington aren't paying anyone. It's volunteers from the political parties.
Well, I guess the question though is, now that we're sitting here talking about it, and I answered my question, the entire town votes for all of us.
Right.
Do we gain anything at all with the redistricting?
The only thing would be where we would have to live.
Right, but we're all sitting where we live in our districts now, so do we go and change them? Because we all represent the entire town. It's not
Right,
like you
no.
just represent your district, you represent your district.
The commissioners are the same way, though.
Right.
And they redid theirs. But I didn't see the point of that.
And I know that Kevin's already said this, but he did use the census block to make each of those districts as equally populated
Right.
as possible
For the moment.
for the moment. You can't anticipate growth.
10 years growth.
Yeah, you can't do that, but
Yeah, when we
I
look at
just wanted
some of
to
the
throw
areas
that
that
back
are,
in.
got homes going up, just no one lives in them yet, there's gonna be some pretty wide swings here in the next year, year and a half.
yeah.
Yeah, especially my area.
Are we, Darla, do we have to do it in these years, or can we wait a year or so till we see these subdivisions and then do it then?
I think if we're going to do it, it has to be done by the end of the year, as I recall. Like November, December, there's a deadline, so.
I don't know. I know it took us a while last time to get the update.
Didn't we have Elevate do it last time?
Elevate, yes. And he used census blocks. So, in our town code is just a listing of census blocks
Right.
to divide those wards out. So that's the same method that Kevin had used.
It's what's your pleasure.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not inclined to, actually, before I say anything, Kevin, were any of them out of variance by more than 10%?
Barely, a couple of them.
Because the state guidelines do say they want them within a 10% variance.
Yeah, but that's all small numbers.
No, that's absolutely true. I was going there too, and because you get one subdivision pop up, we're back out of variance again.
Well, my suggestion is we table it again, let Darla check into what she's going to check into, we have the end of the year, what's the hurry today, you know?
The only hurry was to get it done by in-house. So if you're all convinced that you would want to, it's not an issue anymore, if you want to contract it out.
I would not be in favor of contracting it out.
Anticipated annexations that may or may not happen, or anticipated subdivisions that may or may not happen. Maybe we can get a better look at them to how would that skew things in the future.
I took into account everything that's platted currently or going through the process, so those are all factored in to the current numbers.
Good to know.
Is there a motion in regard to this?
I move we table.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
it's just a discussion right now.
Okay.
We still need a motion to table it, correct? Is that what you're asking for?
We can, but I think with this, Darla, if I'm not mistaken, we could just discuss it, put it on the next agenda to discuss it, right, since there's no resolution pending? Okay, then I guess we would need a resolution if we wanted to adopt it. But if we're not, and we're still discussing it, then we'll just direct put it on the next agenda.
You want the next agenda, or when we have answers to some questions? That way they're not under a time hack.
That's true. Darla, just let us know when you have those answers, and then we'll play it by ear. It'll be shortly, obviously, before we statutorily have to make the decision. And thank you, Kevin, for the work on this. I don't want you to think our discussion of this is minimizing that by any means.
I was just trying to help out.
No, you are, and actually you have. You've given us something that concrete to look at and discuss, so that is a help. All right. Well, is there any public discussion on the council wards? Didn't know if maybe there's a nugget of wisdom we've missed. All right, moving on. Flood report. You have anything, Mike?
I don't believe I have.
All right. Envision Ellettsville update.
Well, I'll speak if nobody else is going to. Next Tuesday, 5 to 7, Envision Ellisville is going to have a reveal of all the work they've been doing, as well as a celebration here at the town hall. We expect a pretty good crowd. There's going to be food trucks. IU Health's bringing their mobile unit in. National Guard's going to be here. I'm thinking there may be some balloon launches, as I understand it, if the weather cooperates. It'd be a good thing for bring your kids and learn what we have envisioned for the future of Ellettsville. A lot of work's went into it. I think we've had 2,000 inputs from the community from various manners, or whether it was on the internet, we did surveys, and we had several public meetings. There's a lot of work that's went into it. I think it's going to be very helpful. It follows our comprehensive plan that Kevin put together for us a few years ago. There's a lot in it that coincides with what the board has accepted as a comprehensive plan. I think everybody realizes we're growing and we're changing, and we want to change in a positive way, and Envision Ellisville is going to help with that process. It's strongly backed by Main Street and by the Chamber of Commerce, and a lot of people have put something into it, and it's about making Ellettsville's quality of place improve. So please come. It's not going to last long. Inside we'll have a rolling loop on the presentation as we originally put it out. There'll be some informational boards up, and I just think everybody should come see what Ellettsville's going to be like in the future.
Okay. All right. New business. Police Officer of the Year. I believe that's Jim.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members. I want to again, thank you for your support that you've given the police department. You know, we're a small group, but we get a lot of things done. I want to read to you a nomination letter for this officer. I thought it was a surprise, but I'm not sure if it is now or not. But anyway, the nomination letter read, "Intent of this correspondence is to bring to your attention outstanding police work that has continually been and professionally occurred in the last 2 decades. This officer has been affiliated with the Ellisville Police Department for over 21 years. His assignment with the department his first assignment was as a reserve officer patrolling the streets with other more senior officers. After his assignment, he was promoted to a part-time officer where he could fill in for shifts for officers that were on vacation or otherwise assigned. After proving his ability, his status was changed to full-time officer. He is certified Indiana Law Enforcement Academy and is an instructor of defensive tactics, firearms, along with being a field training officer. He's responsible for training of 25 department members, along with assisting Indiana University and Indiana Law Enforcement Academy at Plainfield in these categories. He's been assigned to the school for a resource officer for 2 years. He adjusted quickly to his new routine, mixing with the students and staff professional and positive manner. He assists in incoming and outgoing traffic each day and is responsible for the safety of 2 buildings at both our junior high and high school." And Dr. Sanders is here. I'd like to invite him up to read his nomination letter, if you would, Doctor. And summarize Matt, if you would.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. For Matt Irwin, it's similar to my letter. Matt Irwin is our assistant superintendent, and Matt also leads our school safety team that meets on a regular basis. And so he has had a lot of interactions with Officer Perrion, and I'm just going to go ahead and read my letter, I think. Is mine here? Sorry. There we go. I've had the pleasure of writing many letters of recommendation for several talented people over my 34 years in education. Of all those individuals, I cannot think of anyone more deserving for an award than Travis Perrion. I am humbled and honored that Mr. Perrion has chosen to devote his service in law enforcement to Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation as our school resource officer. Our school corporation campus most definitely became a much safer place for our students and staff when Officer Perrion began serving Edgewood Junior High School and Edgewood High School. SRO Perrion serves our corporation in so many important ways that are vital to the security and safety of our schools. Travis is a regular and active participant in our school safety team meetings and in our school administrator meetings. Our administrators are more effective in creating a safe environment because of the knowledge and experience he shares during these meetings. Like every other school corporation, we encounter crisis situations that demand our best. The leadership of Officer Perrion enables our administrators to respond in ways that meets the needs of our students and staff. Travis also provides a reasonable assurance that our administrators are responding in the most appropriate legal manner. Simply put, Travis Perrion's presence on our campus makes us better in many vital ways. The philosophy of Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation is to prepare our students to be successful during their school years and after graduation. Officer Perrion's important work goes beyond the physical and time boundaries of our school campus. The tremendous impact Travis has on our junior high and high school students will help them to be more productive students throughout our community today and into the future. With great confidence, I recommend Travis Perrion for Officer of the Year. And I just want to thank the town for the awesome partnership that we have. We had a vision when we expanded to 2 school resource officers, and that was to have somebody at the secondary schools and somebody at the elementary schools devoted specifically to those students and staff. And Travis and Alec, I couldn't ask for any better school resource officers, so thank you. And congratulations, Travis.
Thank you, Dr. Sanders. I'd like to pat him on the back a little bit too. He's been great to work with. I approached him about the second school resource officer. Before I got the words out of my mouth, he said, "I'm working on it. I'm working on it." So Travis, will you come out, please? We'll take a picture here in a minute. You didn't think it's pretty much a surprise, right?
It was a surprise until I pulled into the parking lot.
Ellisville Police Department School Resource Officer Travis Perry, on so ordered this 9th day of May 2022 by the Ellisville Town Council, William Ellis, President, Town Manager Mike Farmer, and Jimmy Durnall, Chief of Police. This award is being presented to you for your outstanding work effort for the calendar year 2021. Your professionalism, attention to duty, and consistency has been brought to my attention many times by school administrators throughout the RBB school system. As an SRO, you are responsible for the safety of our children. You have fulfilled that assignment and responsibility admirably throughout the year 2021. Your professionalism and enthusiasm is second to none. Awarded this 9th day of May 2022 Police Officer of the Year. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, everybody, for that. Well, the next thing's nowhere near as exciting, but just as important, if you like clean water. Ellettsville Wastewater Treatment Plant improvements.
I'm not sure I got following that. But,
I know, it's tough, isn't it?
what you have, I think, does everybody have a copy of what I've provided? Should be in your packet. So, as you know, in 1995 is when we started with this project. You thank Mike Carmen, I think he was on the board then. But, so we give him all the credit. But the plant went online in November of 1997. You guys can do the math. We're 25 years down the road. Not done a lot of improvements out there for 25 years. It's been fortunate that we haven't had to. Some of the buildings, structures, road, all the things that are on this list, I think are due to be upgraded so we can get 25 more years out of the town's investment. This buildings and structures, if you look at the top, everything needs repainted. It's made of split-face block. That needs resealed. There's some masonry joints that need to be tucked. We'll have to get more than one quote, obviously, before we do any of this. But you can see what the cost was we have a lot of metal piping and metal that needs sandblasted and repainted. Some of the roof, all three roofs are all flat. That's flat roofing on all the buildings. I was amazed at what the cost was to reseal all those and replace those. And the last thing is the blacktop drive, which heavy trucks go in and out of every day hauling the sludge to the landfill. I think it's time to resurface it as well. Actually, I think that price probably is about right on. We'll get more quotes than one in the future. The UV system has been probably outdated for 10 years. We've been fortunate enough to find parts for it over those 10 years. The technology is, as your phone changes about every 9 to 12 months, so does some of these things. So we're looking into getting that replaced. I think it's probably the number one thing on the list for right now. SCADA system is the original SCADA system. It's kind of the same thing. SCADA stands for Systems Control and Data Acquisition. This system has allowed us to staff the wastewater plant Monday through Friday. If you look at most plants our size, they're staffed 24 hours, 7 days a week. So that system has definitely saved the town a lot of money over the years. Something I feel needs to be upgraded. This next one, equalization basin, is something I think we've tried over the years, and this kind of falls in discussion of I&I. Eastern Richland, I've discussed this with them. They spent millions of dollars trying to reduce their inflow and infiltration. We've spent several thousands of dollars over the years per year trying to reduce ours as well. If you look at most studies, you're lucky if you get 15% reduction of I&I by trying to chase it down and replace it. That doesn't mean we're going to stop trying that. With the growth in Ellettsville, the flows that are coming to the plant continue to increase, not only on dry days, but also in wet weather events. I'm very concerned about it. I think to prolong the life of the wastewater plant, that an equalization basin may have to be the answer. And just kind of explain what that is you just build a big holding basin to catch your excess flows on rainy days, and then once the rain stops, you obviously open the drain and treat that same flow back through the plant. It's probably the second most important thing on here, I think, that we need to really get addressed soon, like real soon. You can see what the grand total is. I'm probably way off. I'm probably way low, just because everything, as you've noticed, building of anything has increased by 30%. I put on here, there's a couple other items. If we move from the blue building, we'll have to move the dump station to the wastewater plant. And then obviously we should put some electronic gates in for these people to come and go, so we can track who's in the wastewater plant when we're not there. You can see the money that we currently have in our capital replacement fund, what used to be called the equipment replacement fund. That fund was really there to continue to buy pumps and motors and things of that nature, but that's some available funds. And I think we have $1 million in our sewer fund as well. And so I'm looking probably, well, first entertain any questions that you might have.
Jeff, if we do this basin, what's the difference between it and a treatment pool?
It's just temporary storage. You aerate it. It's really not doing any treatment at all. And then you treat that aerated influent wastewater through the wastewater plant over the next 24 to 48 hours.
Would another treatment pool be more, obviously it's more money, but would that be more to help the long life of the plant if we did that now?
Well, if you did, we're currently at about 70% capacity. If you remember correctly, me talking to you about 2, even 3 years ago, we were at 52, 53%. But there's been some significant growth. And so to add a new treatment, that wastewater plant cost $6 million to build in 1997. I'm estimating $20 million today. And you would have to put in a whole new oxidation ditch, 2 new clarifiers, some of the parts there, the influent station and bar screens and things like that may not have to change, but you're still talking the majority of the money are those big ticket items, the oxidation ditch and clarifiers, clarifier drives. So, instead of a $2 million equalization basin that probably would buy us 20 years, and, who knows if 20 years is correct, Because if you'd asked me 2 years ago, if we had 20 years, I'd say no problem, but I'm starting to second guess that answer.
So what would be the next step if we went with this basin and then we have to expand more with the treatment pool? Be the next thing?
It would be the next thing, but hopefully it's years from now. The nice thing is the town owns 50 acres out there.
Sure.
We would certainly want to look at where this treatment, this equalization basin would go compared to where we put a new treatment system, so we didn't make a mistake there.
Right.
Because obviously excavation and rock and all that stuff can play a part. But
So you think this will buy us a lot of time then, if we went this route now?
I certainly hope so.
Will it affect the odor? Because that's always been something we've been pretty lucky in, that low odor.
We would design this, the nice thing is we can build this to where gravity feeds out, so you put water cannons and you shouldn't have any, a lot of residue or anything. And I'm not concerned about odor at all.
As you go on South 30 or 69, I guess now, is that what that is there on the plant there on the highway, that big liner, it's out in the open, is that the same thing?
That's a 40 to 50 million gallon equalization tank, and its gravity also flows back into the wastewater plant. So it's very similar. You fill it up with your inflow pumps. We probably have to add one more pump, which the plant was designed to add another pump. Our pumps will pump 2.5 million gallons, so that would give us 5 pumps. And we think we can handle the flow. Part of the problem we're having right now in drain events is that we don't have enough pumping capacity to keep the flow down. So
How long did this sit in that pool before we had to process it?
it would be returned. We currently use the empty basin in the oxidation ditch for the same thing, but we're getting real close to needing to run the whole wastewater plant. So we've installed valving and stuff that we could remotely use. We've always been able to control the wet weather problems that we have. We have a protocol we follow, and we've not had a lot of problems, but most of the time we're only running 50% of the plant to treat the wastewater, and we're needing to move to 100% of the plant, because we're really treating about 125% of our flow through the design of just half the plant. So.
And just one last thing, I know me and Mike took a drive out there, about a month ago, and I've been super impressed with how well you guys keep that plant up and how you stay on top of everything. We pulled in and the guy came, what was his name?
Jeff King.
Yeah, he was out there in minutes after we pulled into the plant, so it, you could tell the drive needed a little repair, things like that, but I think after that, it'll look like a brand new plant again, so.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah. And I just, kudos, you guys have really done a great job taking care of that.
Thank you.
On the septic haulers dump station,
Yes.
will there be a way to measure that? I know you want to have electronic gates so you know when they're there, but is there a way to measure what they're putting in the system?
Yes, and that's what we would install. It just calculates the flow. They'll use a swipe card. Instead of being on the honor system, we'll know who actually dumped, what time of day they dumped, and how much flow. So it make it a lot easier. Obviously, these things will require engineers. We'll have to do a preliminary engineering report on some of this, so there'll be some upfront costs. I will get a lot of that prepared so you can see it, and I can vote on it, approve whoever we hire, we can take bids, all those good things. So I just wanted to inform the board as I move forward to do my job. I think I'm probably 12 months behind doing this time.
One other quick question. Have you run any of this by Eastern Richland yet?
I have. I attended their board meeting. It's been 3 weeks ago, or whenever their meeting is in April. I went to their meeting, shared the same information, so they were informed of which way we're moving. They were very receptive and said, however we can help, we'll help. One thing I want to mention, this is going to generate obviously we're doing a rate study. As you know, we've not raised, in fact, the last rate we had was a rate decrease for our sewer rate. So I anticipate some kind of small rate increase to pay for this.
Will we have to bond for the difference of the cash on hand and what you need?
Yes, if we do the majority of this, we don't want to deplete our funds completely. Any other questions? Comments? Thanks.
And next is the plan from the American Rescue Plan Act. Who has that?
Well, I included a copy of the plan.
Yeah, I see the copy. I just didn't know if someone wanted.
I mean, Mike pretty much devised the plan with help from the supervisors, and I think we'll need a resolution to adopt it, but I wanted to get some kind of approval from the council to make sure they like what we're doing with the money. We've never really talked about it in a public meetings.
Any council comment? Because I do have some. Okay. I do have a problem with one of the sections, promoting equitable outcomes. I think that's something we can't promote equity. Quality, yes, everybody should have the same chance, but we cannot promote an outcome that everybody is the same.
What page are you on, William?
Page 5.
I think that wording has been promoted by our accounting firm, and it is part of what the plan should have in it to make sure it passes muster with the fans.
That's troublesome. That really is.
Has Baker Tilly seen this copy, or did they help you
They
put it
did.
together?
They did this draft.
Okay, I thought they were going to help.
Outline, and they put it together so it would meet muster with the fans.
William, what bothers you about that promoting? It's kind of just saying that the council's going to work toward doing their best job to use the recovery funds.
Right, there's a difference between equity and equality. Equity is guaranteeing of outcomes. Equality is guaranteeing everybody has the same tools to get from A to B. And I do not like putting my name to anything that can say, we're going to guarantee outcomes. That's up to the individual. That's a social engineering thing that's in vogue in Washington right now that just turns my stomach.
So how would you like it to read instead?
Equality, promoting outcomes of equality or something. Just the term equity just really is stomach churning for me.
Do you mind if Darla runs this by
Not at all.
Baker Tilly and make sure it doesn't cause us any problems?
Right.
Because I think if you look at the plan, it's pretty practical.
Yeah, overall it is.
And so, you know,
Well, I think quite honestly, I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure I completely understand it because it's kind of a boilerplate style paragraph. But when you look at the emphasis of the paragraph, it's being done with the distribution of funds.
Right. I completely understand that. And then that's why I question why it even has to be equitable outcomes. It should be
boilerplate that they do.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. The wording could be changed and the same principle will still be there. Principle in theory, and the words I don't have an issue with.
And the draft, I mean, this is the plan, the outline.
Right.
I think our resolution will be what is more recognized as a legal document. That's all.
Are we wanting action on this tonight, or what's the?
Well, I would just, we've got,
We need for the board to acknowledge our plan and give us some direction if they have any, and more than anything else, be made aware of our plans to spend money on everything listed here. And
I'll have to do an additional appropriation before we can spend this, so I just need an idea of how you want to spend it to make sure I get it correct in the additional appropriations.
I like where the spending's going, especially with the flood remediation.
I agree with William. I think the entire document is well thought out as far as the spending priorities on it, because it addresses a lot of the needs that we've talked about for years. It addresses or begins to address the need that we've talked about for some of the community that needs space to play, needs space to work, needs space to grow. And I think overall it's a good use of the money to, for want of a better word, remediate projects that we've been looking at for years with no other way to do it.
Right.
And potentially, hopefully, please dear God, get us over the hump in a couple areas that those problems just go away.
Well, Mike Corman in one meeting said all the times we've ever said, if only we had $1 million, we have so many things we could do with it. So it's actually happened, and so we're going to use the money that is given to us to best promote the town, encourage economic development, enhance the quality of place, and attract the kind of people we want moving into our town. I mean, the Envision Ellettsville is all about coming home. And so the fact that we secured the Next Level Trail grant, this makes this project with the ARPA money even more, I don't want to say valuable, even more important, because we kind of engineered this paper to allow for us to do the Next Level Trail had we not received the grant. So now we're going to get twice as much. I think our Parks Department, it's actually going to become another department in the town.
Well, I was going to say, I think, knowing what little I know, not to steal it in, Ellettsville's thunder as far as the Envisioning Ellettsville project, but from a little bit of the inside baseball, these all mesh together very well. They're at the right time that I think it would be disservice to not call it historic changes because of how things are growing. And you can look back at the waypoint in the town's history. When the town would do X, things would grow. When they would do X, things would grow. I think this is a great use of these funds to set up the use of further funds that we know we're getting to allow that town to continue to expand on its own. Again, get us over the hump in a wide variety of areas, both in parks, in place, and in correcting some issues that we've had over the years that allow those to vault even further.
It's an important building block for our future, that's for sure. And it complements the growth that we're experiencing. And it's something that we just didn't have in our inventory that we absolutely need to have. I mean, on a personal level, it allows everyone in town to share in nature and share in recreation and have wide open spaces that they can enjoy. And it doesn't discriminate whether you're poor or rich, or you just want to sit there and look at something, or you want to recreate. I mean, it's going to allow our whole community to gather together and be outside. And so it's this initiative to create a parks department and a trail system. It's not a fad. It's a need that all communities have.
Well, as we've talked over the years, as the town expands, we needed to have a good, firm foundation to build on, and this does that. This is part of that triad that we don't have.
Yeah, and ironically, as we grow and become busy and we maybe become a little more sophisticated in how we're laid out, this will take us back to the days when we were a rural community, and it keeps the green spaces in place, and it'll slow everything else down, and subconsciously, I think it'll just provide that backyard for everybody to enjoy. So it's really, everybody's going to be surprised what it does to our town.
I've already had to do the first reporting. It was April the 30th. And of course, I didn't really have anything to report yet. But we have till 2024 to expend these funds. And so I would just appreciate it if you would make a motion that you agree with the expenditure points of the plan, and then we'll further that with the resolution.
How about an agreement in principle?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Especially the expenditure issue, I have no issue with.
Now, a lot of the wordage was to help meet the requirements from the federal government.
Right, I understand.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yep.
I would move that the council agrees, or the council provides its approval as an agreement in principle toward the allocation of the funds for the ARPA funds.
Second.
Sandy?
Sorry.
That's
I
all
want
right.
to get that written down. William Ellis?
Yes.
Scott Oldham?
Yes.
Trevor Sager?
Yes.
Dan Swaggart?
Yes.
Pamela Samples? Yes. Thank you very much for starting the process.
All right. Letter of credit release for Greenbrier Meadows Phase 4.
All right, I can take this. The developer of Greenbrier Meadows Phase 4 is asking for a release of his letter of credit. The only outstanding items on it were $45,000 for asphalt and $7,300 for sidewalks, and I've inspected those. Everything's been installed as far as sidewalk. Spoken with Kip, and he said the roads look good, so we see no reason to prevent this from being released. And upon release of this letter of credit, these roads will become part of the town street inventory.
Any council discussion on this? Any public discussion? Council action?
I'll make a motion to approve the letter of credit release for Greenbrier Meadows Phase 4.
Second.
Sandy?
William Ellis?
Yes.
Scott Oldham?
Yes.
Trevor Sager?
Yes.
Dan Swafford?
Yes.
Pamela Samples? Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, privilege of the floor. Any? All right.
I just wanted to let everyone know that Food Truck Wednesday will start next Wednesday, May 18th, on Sale Street. It'll be from about 4:30 to 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, depending on the crowd. Streets will be closed. I think we talked about 3 o'clock, Kip. Was that about right?
3:30. 3:30 or 3 o'clock?
Right around between 2 and 3 o'clock, we'll start shutting down. So we'll set out the traffic barrels. It'll say no parking after 2 o'clock on Tuesday for Wednesday. So signage will be up for everybody to know to be off the streets by 2 o'clock on Wednesday. Then we'll start setting up.
All right.
And Food Truck Wednesdays will be every other week through the end of August.
All right, thank
Do we
you.
know who the vendors are yet?
Some of them.
Can you say who they are?
Kevin puts up with this all the time when he gets asks me a question. Weaver Barbecue, La Poblana, and I can't remember the other two, but then I just got notification today if we would accept more food truck vendors, and I said yes. But I don't know who they are.
Okay,
Yeah.
just curious.
Yeah, they're supposed to give me a list as soon as they have everybody, and Chocolate Mousse will probably be there as well.
All right.
Is this on our website?
It will be. There was a little issue with the date. We're supposed to start last week, but it was IU graduation, and they were all busy.
Sure. Thanks, Denise.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, supervisor comments. I think we have some, don't we?
I can start. Well, I didn't plan a speech or anything, but I think it would be terrible if I didn't mention that and thank Kevin Talati for his service with the town of Ellettsville. He's a professional. He's astute in all things planning, zoning, code, enforcement. You can't hardly, I don't think I've ever asked him a question he didn't have an answer for. He's been good to work with, especially since I've been town manager. I lean on him heavily. I'm just Mike Farmer from Ellettsville, so having a professional like Kevin, who's educated and well-read, not only in planning, but also in accounting. He helps the rest of us with our budgets and always has something to interject that nobody else had thought of. But I just hate it that he's going to leave. So, thank you.
All right.
I'm good, thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your support.
All right, this Wednesday will mark my 38th year working for the town of Ellettsville. And after 38 years, it's time for me to retire. So I've decided to give it up, retiring as a paid employee of the town of Ellettsville, effective June 3rd. That's a different date, and I submitted it to you all. I didn't have enough PTO time, so I had to make it right. So it's been a fabulous ride. I can tell you that the town of Ellettsville has given me my family income. I've worked for that income, and I had a happy home here in Ellettsville, lived here all my life, and raised a family, and it's been a good place. It's been a good place to work for. And as challenging as it's been a few times, but no different than any other place of employment, and we've always seemed to come through for the employees. So I thank you for letting me work here. But really what I want to talk about tonight is I want to recommend to you for my replacement that Deputy Chief, Kevin Patton, be promoted to the next fire chief. Kevin has been with the department for 34 years, serving in leadership positions early on in his career with different projects, also being the secretary of the Volunteer Fire Department Corporation, as well as being a lieutenant, a captain, and deputy chief, being in charge of several department projects along the way. Kevin has proved himself to be a leader, as he certainly has continued this while he's been the deputy chief. And if the council desires to appoint Kevin as the fire chief, I recommend that current assistant chief, Chris Klaus, be appointed as the deputy chief of the fire department. Chris was appointed in July of 1997 as a part-time firefighter, working his way to full-time for a total time with nearly 25 years with the town of Ellettsville. Chris has been in leadership roles several times throughout his career, including training, public relations, community outreach, CPR coordinator, coordinating several CPR instructors in South Central Indiana. Under his leadership, the department became a training hub for CPR instructors. It's pretty big in this area. So I do recommend these two fine people to assume the duties effective upon my retirement date. Under Indiana law, the chief and the deputy chief are direct appointments by the safety board, which you are the safety board. And if you have firefighters with 10 or more firefighters, the top two picks are your direct appointment. So that is my recommendation for Kevin Patton and Chris Klaus to move up the chain.
I'd like to say a little something to Mike. Me and Mike have known each other ever since probably kindergarten. And I will say that Mike has always wanted to be a fireman. I know he helped the town out. He got to bring a walkie-talkie to classes, and anytime there would be a big alarm fire, Mike was excused and got to take off and go to it. I always wanted to be a fireman after that because I wanted out of class. But then I found out I had to go do work, and then it was over. I didn't want to be a fireman anymore. But I think Mike is one of those stories. As a little kid, you always wanted to be a fireman, and Mike, the town's going to be missed you, and it's been an honor and a pleasure for you being here all this time. And
thank you, Nancy.
You've done a lot for us.
Well, honestly, I never wanted to be a firefighter, so, but thank God you did. You have done marvelously well over the years. I cannot begin to tell you how much I appreciated the things you bring to the table, a lot of things that no one else considers. And the way that you have been, I guess, brought up and continue to bring up the rest of the department is nothing but tremendous. So thank you for all 38 years. And wish you nothing but the best in the future.
Thank you.
And I'm going to miss our long talks.
I'd like to say something. Obviously, Kevin, I think that I told him today in the supervisor meeting, I kind of consider him the pioneer of our planning department. It's when we really became a true planning department. And I'm not going to look at Mike White. He's like a brother. Him and all three of the Corman boys, I got to grow up with them. Mike Corman's way more than a fire chief to this town. He's the second person I've heard called Mr. Ellettsville, and I think he deserves that title. So, I'm still hoping that he would say he's just kidding, but he knows how I feel about him, and certainly gonna miss him. I think both these guys deserve a round of applause.
Well, I was going to invite everybody. Well, we need to do more than that for both Kevin and Mike. Let's all stand. They need a standing.
I'll stand too.
Mike and Kevin, thank you guys so much.
This is not your last meeting though, Mike, right?
I have one more meeting, yes.
Okay, well, we're planning a fire in your honor.
Yeah, every meeting we're going to do this, and we're going to drag Kevin back in here. I think that one of the best ways to honor Mike is for council action. One of the best ways to honor Mike is, do we need to make council action today or wait till he leaves? I don't see why we would need to wait. Do we? Right.
It would be, first of all, I support his recommendations 100%, and it seems like it would be a good plan to go ahead and do it tonight so everybody can get their lives in order and plan for what's going to happen.
I'll entertain a motion if someone wants to make it.
That's a start, I would imagine so. Yeah.
I think it would be helpful if you did separate them out.
Okay.
Okay, I make a motion to make Kevin Patton the fire chief after Mike Corman retires.
I'll second that.
Sandy?
William Ellis,
Yes.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
Trevor Sager,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Pamela Samples. Yes. Motion carries.
And I would like to say to Kevin, I've worked with you the entire time we've been on the council. Back when you had a rougher chief, I'll say, Jim. And I always enjoyed going to you than I did Jim. And you've always done a wonderful job, so I'm looking forward to working with you. So.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I do want to thank Chief Corman for his recommendation and his leadership through the years. And I'd like to thank the council for trusting me to fill this position. And last but not least, I'd like to thank my wife of 37 years, if I got that right, I hope so. And she's been there all along the way and been right there with me to push me and support me, so thank you.
If you're wrong in the 37 years, you'll hear really soon.
Yes, I will.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Mike, don't tell Jim I said that either.
I don't think we'd have to. Somebody else.
Oh, his son's in the back. I guess I shouldn't have said a word. I was talking about another Jim.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to make Chris Klaus the deputy fire chief when Mike Corman retires.
I'll second.
Sandy?
Trevor, you seconded? Okay, William Ellis,
Yes.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
Trevor Saker,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
Motion carries. And I do have to say just a little something. Kevin Talati has been such an asset for us. Okay, I'm probably not going to make it though. We'll cry. But he's a unique person, and when he hired in, I was so impressed. He came to our office down at the old elementary, and he would take a couple of ordinance books at a time. He went through every one of them to build his base knowledge for the town. And I have been so impressed with his work for us, and he's going to be tough to replace, but I just want to say I really, really admire you, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then Mike has been my go-to. I get my feelings hurt real easy sometimes. And I say things that I regret, and I'll call Mike and he makes it all better. So I'm going to miss him tremendously. Also, he's a world of knowledge, but I do have his cell phone number in my phone, and he is told me he's got to have 2 weeks. So I can't bother him for 2 weeks, but after that, he's fair game.
Well, I think he's changing his phone number.
I didn't tell her that.
Well, Mike, didn't you say the public, we could give them your cell phone number if they had any questions too after 2 weeks? No, was that?
That's his change.
Okay.
I am staying on as a volunteer firefighter as well.
So we'll still see you if we go to a fire scene.
If everybody's allowed to add just a little bit of piece for Mike. 1984, in that fall that year, I was at a football game, and he says, "Why don't you come down and join the fire department as a volunteer fireman?" And I did. So I've actually been a part of this town since 84, 85, around in the area. This guy is also in my wedding. He's been really close friends with my cousin Tom Eddy, and I'm really gonna miss him. And Mike's been a great asset, and I probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Mike. So.
And just for a point of order, it turns out Trevor was not even born in 1984.
Since everybody's talking,
Yes.
I wanted to say, Mike and I have been friends for a multitude of years, but the last 6.5, 7 years, we have become close friends. And like Sandy, when I get upset about something, he's the first guy I call. And I appreciate that so much. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your attitude, and I appreciate your motto. And what is that?
It's all good.
All good, that's right.
Now, she's on here, so I got to say something. But my wife. So when you guys all call me, then I call her. So she's part of this too. So thank you very much.
All over Ellettsville tonight, people are going in their basements and their attics and getting their extension cords out, ready for this brave new world we're going to be in. Stocks will go up overnight, and extension cords will be in vogue.
Fire pit rings are going up there.
Yep.
You know, since we're talking about everything, I got to tell Kevin this, and I kind of spoke to him a little bit at our last meeting. I was on the interview process when we brought Kevin into the town. I was thoroughly impressed with your your resume and the way you dealt with us. You were very professional, and I was so excited to work with you, but unfortunately, you started in February, and my term ended in February, so I had to wait another 4 years before I could come back and work with you, so it's going to be hard to replace you, Kevin. You've done a great job.
I guess since this is my last meeting, I probably should say something. It's been great working here. I mean, I've been here for 7.5 years. Like Dan said, he was one of the crew that hired me, so glad I didn't disappoint you too much. Everyone's been great to work with. Congratulations, Mike, on retirement. You've always been there for me when I needed something. You deserve this. Yeah, I mean, I'm so proud to see how, especially our department's grown in 7 years. It's leaps and bounds. I can feel it physically every day, how much it's still growing. It's fantastic. I do want to say I could not have done this without Denise. She has been amazing to work with, so I don't know what the plans are exactly for my position. I know I like to think I'm irreplaceable, but I know that's not true. I mean, it'd be hard to find someone else who can roll her eyes as well as I can. I don't know, Denise might be a close second.
I was going to say Denise has got that one.
Yeah, we practice in our office. That's what. But whatever you do, I really urge you to consider Denise for taking over as planning director. She has been there beside me for the past 7 years. She knows everything inside and out. I mean, she's done fabulous work. She was the driving force behind the Next Level Trails grant, which I think is going to be immensely beneficial to the town. So that's just my 2 cents. Do with it what you want. I guess I'm leaving on Friday, so. But I'll still be around. I hope the town continues to grow, and I wish everyone the best of luck.
Well, Kevin, just know that even though you'll be gone, the footprint that you helped expand the town, and that's going to be around. That's you. So we appreciate that. Okay, we've already had council. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, all in favor of adjourning?
Who seconded that?
Aye.